jump into the conversation. This is going to be a fun call because what we typically do is our new agents, they sit here and listen to me talk about the business and how to be better realtors. But a big part of being the best realtor and the best fiduciary possible for our clients is also having vendor support. And vendors, when I say vendor, I mean people like yourselves, like Anel, like Rob, like Jeremy, and like Steve, who we will meet towards the end, who are people that can help us and our clients through transactions to either improve their resale value by having a clean home or a safe home, electrically speaking, or during the home buying process when they have to find a good home insurer. Like that, these are things that I typically kind of keep my hands off of because I don't have a lot of recommendations in certain parts of the vendor world. But we're going to bridge that gap today by talking to some business owners here. And we're going to start with Anel. Anel runs a cleaning company. And Anel, if you can, I know you might be on your phone. If you're cool with it, I'm going to share your contact information with everybody on the call in the chat. And
okay.
Hopefully this will help your business grow. I don't know if you're able to take more right now, but you said you're very busy. But I just want to start off by asking you to explain a little bit about what you do in your business.
Sure. Actually, I'm staying now in the house. This house is empty. So if I can show you, let me turn it around the camera. Okay, so basically, this is a house you normally have. So we do, when the house is empty and you're gonna put on sale, we do the fridge inside and outside, outside, all the countertops, cabinets, inside, outside, blinds, windows, the stove, microwave, inside, outside, oven. So normally, basically like that, all doors, baseboards, bathrooms, dusty, everything, and windows, fans, everything, and floors also, and carpets. That's normally we do. And sometimes, occasionally, when they have a little messy in the garage, we also do garage, things like that.
Great. So how that can be important for us as realtors. So in the typical real estate transaction, either before or after the transaction concludes, we want to make sure that our let's just say we're listing a home, but it's maybe it's vacant, or maybe it's inhabited by a family that just doesn't have time to do a good deep clean. Well, is it safe to say that we can reach out to you and you can help us facilitate home cleaning for that person?
Yeah, actually all my team is vaccinated already, and we use masks, gloves, and everything, and we put my own supplies, my own vacuums and all that stuff I need to do the cleaning, so you don't have to do nothing, just call us.
That's wonderful. And so if we're getting us a listing prepared, then that looks like getting the house clean so that it shows in the best light, making sure that photographs show up well. And so you'll want to contact Anel when you first find out about your listing. And on the flip side, if you're maybe buying a home for somebody, if you're their buying agent, then maybe you give them the gift at closing of a home cleaning. Like, that's a great gift to give, because no matter how clean the person before left it, there's always cleaning opportunity, as I'm sure you see all the time, Anel.
Oh, for sure. Obviously, we have, I have my folio with some pictures before and after cleaning for, the customers can see what they can expect about our service. And yeah, we have some, promotions like deep cleaning half price, and the second cleaning is, very low cost or things like that.
Great. So Anel, can you share a little bit with us? How long have you been in business?
10 years ago.
10 years. And
ago,
how big is your team?
I have 2 people working with me. Normally, I have the same people because I have my customers are mostly family environment, and I don't want to bring someone different every time when I go to the houses, because you have your kids, your wife. Sometimes have Muslim customers, indie customers, and that people is very, special about that with the treatment. So I like always bring the same people. They know already your house. They know already what the way you like to do. So I like to do that like that. Maintenance the same people, for the people feel comfy. They can stay. Your stuff can stay. If broke something or everything, I have insurance in my company actually, so you don't have to worry about everything.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talk about in coaching, and this is just a life coaching portion, is how to get time back in our lives. And as realtors or as parents who maybe don't have all the time in the world to spend at home and do the cleaning things, why not rely on a pro and hire it out to a person like Anel, right? And when I say leverage, I mean you're getting time back in your life by also providing for the community through hiring Anel to clean your home for you. Anel, what's a typical cost look like for a home to be cleaned? Let's say a 2,000 square foot home.
Yeah, we normally, when a house is not too much dirty, it's like it can be 120 to up.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good.
it's not. Yeah, and when have because it's just one time, normally for real estate, but when the customers stay with us, can be at $80 to 200. It depends the size to the house, and depending how often they do the cleaning, because just one time had to be deep cleaning, and regularly you just go to maintenance the house, so you know how you put the stuff, how you clean the stuff, so you don't have to do much work, so just maintenance. So that's why the price vary.
Cool. I don't know about you guys out there, your agents, and agents, if you can, get ready for some questions. We're going to allow you guys to have some Q&A with each business owner that we talk to here. But I don't know if you guys have gotten a lot of requests for this, but I'm always being asked, do you know of a good cleaner? And it's not just from potential clients, it's from people in my sphere, right? So people I go to church with, or people that I used to work with, they ask me, do you know of a home cleaner? And the return on that investment of actually having somebody like Anel in your Rolodex of vendors may not be immediate, but in the future, when these people are asking you about cleaners, they're probably going to come back to you and ask you about real estate when the time comes. So it's always good to be the local expert and to have as many resources as possible. So Anel is one of my resources. So I'm trying to rack my brain on how we met. Was it through Kelly Boone?
Well, actually, when we met, I was cleaning your house because I was cleaning for someone else.
Okay,
But
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So
I was
anyways,
cleaning
it's
for
a
someone else.
long tangled web that we get into conversations with people, and we use them in the future. But I most recently used it now. My wife and I bought a condo, and we flipped it, and we had flooring work done, painting work done, and it was probably quite the mess after they were all done. But Anel helped me out by going and cleaning it and doing a really nice deep clean. And I'm one day away from renting that thing out because of the cleanliness within the unit. So I have her to thank for that. So guys, open it up for questions. What questions do you as agents have for Anel? Ask anything.
Depending on the size of the house, is it just you, or is it like a group of people or two people, or?
Yeah, it's 2 or 3 people, but it's always same thing. So you already, if you are working with us more than one time, you already gonna know the people. I don't like bring different people every time because I need the people be trustly, you know, who is in the house.
Thank you.
Yeah, and normally we are cleaning also, you know, like for emergency Saturday or Sunday. It depends. If you're not mine, we can go to the house anytime during the day. We can do Saturday or Sunday. You know, for emergency, sometimes you have to show a house Monday very early. We can do Sunday.
That was actually going to be my question. I was going to ask how far out you typically schedule, or if you're able to do things kind of as requested. I mean, is your schedule typically packed, or what does that look like?
Well, you can call me anytime if you want. I just have to take a look at the house. If you know have a time for I go to the house and give you the price, you can send me pictures.
Oh, great.
And I can give you, yeah.
Yeah, whenever you reach out to an L, it's helpful to have an idea of how many square feet and what she can expect to encounter. So, hey, just a heads up, this is a house that's completely vacant. There's no furniture. We're looking at mainly cleaning floors and appliances.
How
And
many
it's 1,000
bathrooms
square feet.
have? I want the basement also, not the basement or things like that, you know.
How long on average, just an average ballpark, how long can you expect a typical cleaning session to be in a home, let's say a 2,000 square foot home?
2 hours and a half for 2 people, and 3 people is a little, you know, like 2 hours. But normally I want to do very like, it's doesn't matter if a regular cleaning. I want to do always a deep cleaning because that's a good reference for your work. So I very focus in details about windows, about things like that.
Awesome. Any other questions, guys? Anel, what's your best email address? I put in your phone number in the chat. What's your best email address in case they want to reach out to you that way?
Yeah, sure. ANNELFUENTES 2626
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking some time. Does anybody else have anything going once? Twice?
Thank you so much.
Anel, thank you so much. We've got I think 12 or 13 agents on here that now know more about your business, and we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. Be a pleasure to meet you guys. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Next, we are going to meet Mr. Jeremy Chapman. And Mr. Jeremy Chapman comes to me straight from another individual in our coaching group here, and that is Miss Erica Brown. Erica Brown, she, the very first time we met, we talking about, oh, what does your husband do? And she shared, and I'm going to let him introduce what his business is, but it's always good to know somebody that knows somebody, right? And I needed somebody's help, and Mr. Jeremy was able to come through. So Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what your line of work is?
Okay, I'm Jeremy Chapman. I own Chapman Basement and Drainage. We do a lot of, our primary business is basically fixing gross basements, fixing, wet basements, cracked basement walls. We deal with drainage problems. We basically anything that, rainwater or, the nasty effects of rainwater is what we handle. Do a lot of basement work for real estate agents, constant, flow of that kind of stuff. That's it's one of the biggest things that'll will wreck a deal real fast is when you're looking through a house and then you go into the basement and the the walls are cracked and starting to move and things like that. So we're the guys that in your Rolodex that you get a hold of when when you go into the basement and it's pretty nasty. So that's pretty much what we do. We deal with a lot of drainage work and stuff too. Like I say, anything rainwater related, we either do it or we partner with a company that does it.
So if I'm getting water in my basement, I can call you.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Any kind of waterproofing you might need, any kind of downspout drainage. Big thing is cracked basement walls, stuff like that. We see a lot of foundation work off of off of this kind of stuff, and we also deal with sump pumps. That's more of a that's more of an inspection thing. Once you get your inspection report back, sometimes they'll find a burned out sump pump and stuff. And that's also things that we can do. So
awesome. And so I was introduced through the necessity to do just what Jeremy just said. So I had an inspection. It was an FHA loan. And the inspection uncovered that there were some carbon fiber straps supporting the structure and the foundation, the block foundation of a basement. And in FHA, an FHA loan and lender wants to make sure, like triple sure, that the fortifications that have been placed are adequate to endure a long time. And so they required me to get an additional basement inspection. Finding a structural engineer on short notice in order to try and close on time is damn near impossible if any of you have tried before. There's just few of them, and they want to charge an arm and a leg. I was able to, because I remember that conversation with Erica, I was able to remember that her husband did this. So I reached out on a whim, and next day he was out there. And so that's the kind of service that goes a long way in my eyes, because especially in a real estate transaction, we don't have weeks to wait for another person to go walk through. So if I was getting that service from a person that didn't even know me, then I can only imagine what he does in his business when you're his actual client. So I just want to vouch for him. He went in there the next day and gave us a really good report and told us what we needed, and we closed right on time, thanks to him. So want to talk, I guess, from an inspection standpoint, what do you see most of when dealing with realtors?
Well, let me see here. So the panicked phone calls, the ones that are always, because there's going to be a hierarchy here. There's going to be, you go down in the basement and it's just a little wet, not a huge thing, needs some corrective work or whatever. There's also the other thing. The big thing's going to be when you're touring the house, when you go into the basement, you see a cracked basement wall. That tends to freak basically everybody out that sees it. I can't tell you how many transactions we've saved just by kind of looking at it, assessing it. I can assess it from a picture. I have probably 15 or 20 agents that will. In fact, I got one this morning from Kyle Edwards that he was touring a basement, went down into the basement, and they did kind of shoddy basement work, and he had a couple questions about it. Shot me a picture. I gave him an assessment, told him right on the spot what needed to happen. I've got to go look at it tomorrow to make sure it's okay, and then go from there. So the big thing that we see with real estate agents particularly is usually cracked foundations. That's the one that freaks everybody out. The collapse that just happened in Florida, I cannot tell you how many questions I've answered about that. Everybody thinks their house is caving in now and stuff. So usually when you see a cracked foundation, you're going to want to have somebody like me in your pocket to give me a call. You can shoot me a photo. You can shoot me an email. I can work off of inspection reports. That's a big one. There are some home inspectors that will actually flag these kind of things and stuff like that. That's going to be the big thing. Another thing we see is where people, if you go into a basement and it's got mold and there's some water spots on the walls and stuff like that, It's another thing, you know, that you might want to call us on so that we can come out and get a look. A lot of times that's either gutters or drains on the outside of the house, you know, that are having problems. It's actually pretty cheaper and low hanging fruit. It's pretty easy to fix. So, you know, it's just one of those things where if anybody's feeling uncomfortable about water or basement walls or their basement or anything like that, it's always good to give me a ring. I'll go ahead and, you know, if you have any photos of any acute issues that you see, like your customer goes downstairs and goes, oh man, you know, that wall's cracked. I'm really uncomfortable with this. It's something where you can shoot me a email, text message or whatever. I can look at it and just in a matter of a minute tell you, hey, this is something you should be worried about, or B, not really something to worry about. I can get a look at it at some point and get it fixed. So the cracked basement walls are the ones we really see that everybody freaks out about. Most of the other stuff is just kind of, it'll get caught on an inspection report, or, you know, your customers will look at it and go, yeah, it's, you know, I don't want all this water coming in. I don't want this mold in the corners. Really easy stuff to fix. So
Cool. So as new agents, guys, we're predominantly going to work with buyers our first year because there's just more of them out there here in Columbus right now. It's just where we are. And so when you get into contract on a home, or even when you're touring a home, you're going to notate some opportunities that you can preface with the buyer. Hey, we're going to get an inspection. We're going to dig deep into that. When you get that inspection report back, I think I've taught you guys to approach it this way. And if not, then we need to have another class here soon. But I tell our clients to look at 4 major components of an inspection report. The number one thing I always notate is foundation. If the foundation's wrong, then the whole house is wrong. I think we don't want the house caving in, right? The other things that I say that are not as significant are electrical, plumbing, and then general safety. Now, mold would classify as general safety because that's in our lungs, right? We don't want that stuff to be breathed in. But the number one thing I always say is basements. And so if you have a resource like Jeremy and you can lean on that person to maybe ease your mind or to prevent the sale of a lemon, a money pit, then you're going to look like a hero in the eyes of your buyer. On the selling side of things as well, we want to go full circle here. If you're at a pre-listing appointment and you're talking to the person about their home and you go down to that basement and they think they're ready to list and you see some catastrophic looking crack, you're going to want to revisit that. You're going to want to revisit before you go active listing. Don't just tell them what they want to hear, guys. It's really important that you give this person some value.
absolutely.
And say, hey, here's what we can expect. If we list your home this week, it might go into contract, but it'll probably fall out of contract 2 or 3 times unless we get this thing fixed.
Yeah, one thing I will add on that point, that's very good that you brought that up, because I always tell people that, you know, I see a lot of people that will have me consult them before a house goes on the market. And my main message to them is keep control of the situation before. Don't list a house that has basement problems, because once that inspection report comes back, if they start flagging a bunch of stuff, it can run on you fast, because you all of a sudden, you know, the person that's trying to buy the house is calling a whole bunch of different companies in. You're going to get a giant, you know, spectrum of, you know, information and quotes and prices and things like that. I would stress that definitely get decent at looking at basement problems and nipping those in the bud before it goes onto the market, because right now it's not that big of a deal. Houses go on the market, people buy them as is, you know, the market's kind of hot. In normal markets though, in the past few years, you know, a couple of years back, it was one of those situations where you really have to try very hard to keep control of the situation with your seller and make sure that they know, hey, there's a potential for an issue here. We need, you know, and try to get somebody like me to come in and consult, and always have a quote to lean back on. Give yourself a place to retreat rather than just going in guns blazing, putting it on the market. You know, you never know what could happen where, you know, somebody comes in and, you know, like I say, they get 5 or 6 different quotes. It's kind of like the auto repair when you get in a car accident. Sometimes they'll go with the most expensive quote. and then just, and stuff like that. So a lot of times it costs buyers money when they don't address these things before the house goes on the market. So you want to make sure that on the buying and selling side, the basement's very important to make sure that you're on solid footing on both of those before you really start hammering down on a deal.
Yeah. So just to basically sum that up, we want to play offense. We don't want to play defense. We want to be ahead of things. Jeremy, how long have you been in business?
I've been in business about 25 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I started
And
when I was 18.
good for you. How large is your company? How large is your team?
We have 4 crews right now. It fluctuates a little bit. Winter's obviously a little less busy than spring and summer. Usually we try to keep it around 3 or 4 crews. So I always have guys available to do things very quickly. That's another thing with real estate is a lot of my real estate clients, it's got to get it done fast, got to get it done, on their timeline, not on mine. So we try to maintain flexibility to react very quickly to things like this.
Yeah, it's unique to have as quick of a response time and have the ability and foresight in building your business to be able to accommodate for that fast turnaround time. I can appreciate you for showing up here early, and I'll share a fun little tidbit. Our electrician, typical electrician, bows out at the last second. He says he's got a fire to put out. That's typical electrician, but not Jeremy Chapman here. He's a vendor that stands by his word. So thank you. So steel beams and that type of stuff. Do you do foundation supports as well?
Yeah, we do steel beams. We do carbon fiber strips. We do the underfloor waterproofing. We coat basement walls, the drainage, sump pumps. The whole thing. There's definitely a difference between carbon fiber strips and beams. There's not really much of a price difference, but you'll find that once you get into this a little bit, usually I give people options of either or. And sometimes you have to mix those. Sometimes you have some carbon fiber strips in there with beams, but we do both. And a lot of times, one situation will call for one situation calls for another. Every basement's different, so we can do it.
Can you tell us what those situations are? So as I'm touring a home and I get to the basement and I see a pier, like a steel beam, I normally try to tell my client what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see a carbon fiber strip, I tell my client what that means. It's important for all of us on the call to understand maybe why those are there and
Mm-hmm.
what is the difference in why I would use a beam versus a strip.
Okay, so basically the difference between a beam and a strip is, obviously one's steel and one's carbon fiber. The other thing about that is basically a beam, we can actually push the wall back. So a basement wall is going to crack, and it's usually going to crack horizontally, and it's going to start to come in the middle, and it's going to be in kind of a V shape. The beams are very good for actually pushing that wall back. We can actually correct it and make it straight up and down again, through some things we do with that. Carbon fiber strips are basically, we call them the duct tape of basement work. It basically, you slap it on the wall, it stops the wall from moving in anymore, but it just kind of freezes everything. Good rule to follow is if you go down in a basement and that crack is anything more than hairline, usually you're going to want to put beams in rather than carbon fiber strips. However, carbon fiber strips are very good if you have a finished basement and somehow you detect some basement wall problems behind that finished wall. Carbon fiber strips are by far the way to go because they require a lot less installation room. We do a lot of carbon fiber strips on basements that are already finished, whereas we put a lot of beams in when it's just wide open. It's just wide open block and concrete floor.
Cool. Thanks for explaining that. Now, one other thing that I like to do as I do walk into basements is, and I'm very upfront with all my clients and say, hey, I'm not a basement doctor. I'm not a pro on this by any means, but here's an approximate cost from what I've seen lately in terms of if you had to install a steel beam. Can you give us a little bit of it, just ballpark numbers?
Basement, so carbon fiber strips and beams usually are right around $425 per beam to install. So basically, so let's say you're standing in a basement, you're looking at a basement wall. Okay, every 4 feet, we use engineering reports and things like that, and kind of the general accepted spacing on those is every 4 feet where that wall is cracked, you need to put a beam or a carbon fiber strip. So, if a wall is 20 feet long, you're gonna need 3 or 4 beams. You start at the corner and start every 4 feet. You can kind of plan on having to put a strip or a beam there until the crack is you go down. So some basement walls will have a crack on one side and it'll kind of fade and fade and fade as you go to the other side. So sometimes you don't need to do the entire wall. You just need to do a portion of the wall. Wherever that crack is, just figure every 4 feet, there's going to have to be a beam. And 425, 450 sometimes if it's a really tall, if it's like a 9-foot ceiling. I mean, I just saw a basement last week that had, what was it? It was a 12-foot high ceiling. I couldn't believe it. It was an enormous house, but it had a 12-foot high ceiling, and we have to put carbon fiber strips 12 feet tall on the wall.
So agents, now that you know an approximate cost, if your clients are in love with a house, but they can't get over the basement, you now have a little bit more ammo. You're never going to give them a quote for how much it might cost without having a person like Jeremy come out. But, in my head, initially, I thought, I don't know how much a beam is. It could cost 10 grand a piece. I don't know. Because we've heard basements are expensive to remedy, but it could be as much as little as, a couple beams, and less than $1,000 could fix your problem at the root cause.
It's shocking how
good information to have there. Thank you.
Yeah, it's shocking how many people will just totally be worried about how much they're going to have to spend on basement repair, and then we come in and go, oh yeah, it's just 2 or 3 beams, 12 13 14 $1,500, they're out the door, and the house is ready to go. So just every 4 feet, just plan on 425 or 450 every 4 feet, and that's a good, you'll get darn close.
Now we should know that cracks and things like mold are a result of something else. There's a root cause of the why, right? It's not just a crack that appears out of nowhere. There's either water coming in and expanding or contracting, right? Or there's maybe roots pushing against the house. Do you also take care of the root cause of the problem?
Absolutely. I mean, I will not, there's some companies out there that won't do this, but I will not do any corrective work in the basement and leave you with the source of the problem. If you have a drain system that's bad on the outside, if you have gutters that are full of leaves and things like that, and there's clear evidence of a problem on the outside of the wall, that needs to be addressed in addition to the beams. You just can't come in and put in beams and call it a day. The source needs to be addressed, and that's usually the drainage system, the downspout system on the outside, or people not cleaning out their gutters. Really common. Really, we see it every single day. Clogged gutters that are pushing on basement walls. It is so common.
Well, guys, what questions do we have from the rest of the crew here?
How long does it take to install a beam, or what is a typical timeline?
Typical timeline of basement jobs, usually 1 to 2 days. We can come in pretty quick and get it done fast. So we try very hard to if we're going to be in your house, we're going to try to minimize the amount of time that we're in there. We're going to come in, get it done, and get out so you can get on with your life.
Awesome. I'm assuming you do a lot more work on block foundations than you do on poured foundations.
Yeah, that's very insightful. Yes, it's block foundations tend to have a lot of bowing problems. Poured foundations tend to just be vertical cracks in the wall. Those have a special fix. We do that too. You need to use epoxy to patch the cracks. So if you're touring a house and you see a finished basement that has a poured basement wall, and they have this wet spot somewhere on the floor, or you'd notice that the carpet's been wet, there's a very, very, very high likelihood, I'm talking up in 95 to 99% likelihood, that right on the outside of that, on the wall, the poured basement wall, there's a crack there. So that's one of those things where if you call me and tell me, hey, I've got a poured basement wall with water in it, I know exactly, I can, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that there's some type of a crack letting the water in. That's one really good thing about poured basement walls versus block. Poured basement walls are extremely strong and they are waterproof until they crack through. But if they crack through, it's like a cracked pool. Once it cracks through, it's always going to leak, so it needs to be addressed. Block basement walls are a completely different beast. So they can have water problems all over the place, bowing, all kinds of stuff. So, they're different ways to treat them, but we're very good at diagnosing those and helping you find a very quick solution to those.
Any other questions?
You need some references, you let me know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'll say this is the number one largest area of concern for most buyers, especially first-time buyers, because they've heard all the horror stories: basements, foundations, etc. Having this information that Jeremy just shared with us, and now having a resource for answers aside from just our hypotheticals, very important as a realtor. So make sure you save this name, this number, this email address. Erica added his website. Make sure that we save these, because this will come in handy, I promise you, in the future. If not today, definitely tomorrow.
I'm a real good tool to have in your pocket in case you run into this stuff. I'm the guy you want to call. I can get it figured out fast for you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much. Can we all Zoom clap? Yay.
Thank you much.
Awesome, man. Enjoy your day.
You too. Have a good day. Take care, y'all.
All right, guys. I met our third and proves to be final panelist on the golf course. It's always good to keep an eyes and ears open for people that may be able to help you in the future. And Mr. Rob is that person who specializes in the thing that I know nothing about. And yet I get asked relatively frequently from buyers, especially for referrals. And so the industry of work that Rob is in insurance. So where does that come into play for a home buyer? They have to have a home insurance policy. And so Rob's going to talk to us about that. So Rob, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Yeah, well, appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me and allowing me to talk to you all today. So Rob Stanitz, I'm with Taylor Insurance Group. We are a independent agency. My office is located here in Powell, but our headquarters is in Twinsburg, which is up by just south of Solon. A suburb of Cleveland. And so we are an independent insurance agency. And what that means is that we are a brokerage. We partner with 7 different insurance carriers that can do the home and auto insurance packages, as well as an additional 7 carriers that would handle kind of those one-off, those vacant homes, or those risks that are just outside the normal appetite for an insurance carrier. So we have the ability to shop those accounts through our various options and see which company would have that best combination of price and coverage for for the client. So what the biggest thing I think is the difference between an independent agency like ourselves and a captive insurance company. So a captive insurance company would be your State Farms, your American Families. Those companies and those agents can only write products with a State Farm agent can only write State Farm insurance. So in the event of a big increase from one year to the next, the only way that they can really change premiums or lower your premiums is to reduce coverages and or take on higher deductibles, versus we would have the ability to shop you through our other markets and see if there is a company that does have a better combination of price and coverage at that point in time. So that's one of the biggest benefits of going through an independent broker versus a captive agent. So one of the things I wanted to point out there. I did want to piggyback off of something that Jeremy was just talking about with regards to water in the basement. This is one of the most common, if not the most common, insurance claim that we do see on our end. You walk downstairs and there's 6 inches of water in your basement due to power going out and the sump pump not working, sump pump failing for another reason, or there's a leak of some kind that you may have. Now, the one thing that to keep in mind with regards to insurance is that, there are certain items that are covered and there are certain items that are not covered by your home insurance policy. So a lot of the examples that Jeremy was giving, you have water in your basement, unsure where that water is coming from. Well, typically that water would be essentially groundwater getting through, penetrating the foundation, and therefore getting into your basement. On pretty much 99% of homeowners insurance policies, groundwater, surface water is not covered on a home policy. So therefore, that'd be something that a client would have to pay out of pocket for in the event of a claim. Now, the one part of this is that, as Jeremy was alluding to, we see individuals have water in their basement. This just happened to a client of mine 2 months ago, and he all of a sudden, was the carpet was getting wet underneath where his desk was. Had no idea how it was getting in. Well, he called the basement doctors. They came out and they gave him a quote. He needed to, fix his whole foundation, and to do such, it was going to cost about $15,000 to fix all the walls and all this stuff. Well, when the adjuster went out there, he said, "When's the last time you cleaned out your downspout for the back gutter there?" He said, I don't have a ladder tall enough, so I can't get up there. I actually haven't done it. Well, come to find out, it was the fact that his downspout was clogged, and that's how water was getting into his basement. I've also seen where the outside drain tiles that take the water from the downspout out to the street, those have either failed, they have roots that grow into them, those types of things. So therefore, their water ends up coming into individuals' basements, and they go to make a claim. Most of the time it's not going to be covered. It's going to be an out-of-pocket expense to clients. I'm not trying to say that all insurance claims are going to be out-of-pocket expense and or they're not going to be covered. I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that type of scenario, unfortunately, is wouldn't be a covered loss on most insurance policies. However, any kind of water damage from like a pipe bursting or a water line leaking, we typically see these with dishwashers, with washing machines, with refrigerators that have the ice makers in them. One thing to keep in mind when you're working with your clients and making sure, walking through an inspection on a house, making sure that all of the water lines are all those braided metal lines instead of the plastic lines that typically a lot of plumbers use. The plastic lines are ones that most typically fail and cause, therefore big water damage. If that's on the second floor, therefore the first floor gets damaged and therefore the basement gets damaged. As we know, water goes everywhere. So one of my biggest tips for you all when going through those inspections is just ensuring that those water lines going to the toilets, going to the washing machine, or going to the dishwasher, to the refrigerator, those are all braided steel lines versus the plastic ones. We just see those items fail. The other thing that I wanted to mention, on when you're working with your clients on new purchases, is with regards to roofs and really the age of the roof. A lot of companies, a lot of insurance companies have gone to for any kind of roof claims, they have gone to a percentage deductible. And what that does is essentially those deductibles are a percentage of the rebuild cost on the house. So in the event of like a wind claim or hail claim, their deductible is typically going to be higher than the deductible for, let's say, water damage or a fire, something like that. So something to keep in mind when working with your clients as to, what kind of coverage that they might be getting on their home insurance, and why they can get one quote from me and it's completely different from a quote with someone else. There's probably some kind of coverage deficiencies within that policy that are causing it to be that much cheaper. Are some carriers cheaper than others? Absolutely, that clearly is the case, but not always. They're always within a general, kind of consensus of each other. So there's probably reasons as to why, rates would be much cheaper with one carrier versus another. Also, they could just be hitting the sweet spot, so the rates could be that good. The other comment with regards to roofs is that insurance carriers are looking at the age of the roof, and in most instances, once that roof hits 15 years or older, it will be replaced on an actual cash value basis. And so the difference between the actual cash value versus a replacement cost basis is that obviously in actual cash value, they're going to factor in the depreciation. So if you have an 18-year-old roof and it needs to be replaced, they're going to factor in 18 years of depreciation. Let's say an average roof cost about $15,000 to replace. They're going to factor in those 18 years of depreciation. And so now you're going to get a check for, and I'm just making a number up, $6,000. So by having replacement cost, you'd be responsible for your deductible, and you're going to make and they're going to pay the remainder of that cost. So you have $1,000 deductible. The insurance carrier is going to pay $14,000. You're going to pay $1,000 to the roofer. But again, kind of goes back to that 15-year mark. When you're working with clients and those roofs are 20 years or more, I would be looking to get something, either some money back to replace that roof, or have the current owner replace that roof before the sale, just because your buyer is going to have a hard time finding a good insurance policy based on those characteristics of the roof there. One other thing I guess I will mention is that when we're doing quotes on a house of new purchase or whatever, they go back and they look at the prior 5 years loss history for both the individual that we're quoting as well as the location in which they're purchasing. So let's say it's a new purchase, we'll be notified if the prior owners made any kind of claims within the last 2 years or last 5 years. So if they have 2 claims, they're water claims. I can tell you their water claims, how much they paid out, when they happen, but that's all the information that I'm really, I really receive. I'm assuming through your all's documentation, those things are typically disclosed. I'm sure Josh can tell you that maybe that is the case or is not the case, but we do see those on our side as to any kind of claims that the prior owners have made within the last 5 years. Those were kind of the items that I wanted to kind of mention here, at least initially. I guess I'll Josh, was there anything else you?
Yeah, so that's really good information, and thanks for taking some time. From a realtor perspective, I'm kind of hands off with that because I don't know anything about it clearly, and you're obviously the pro. So I normally just give a reference or a recommendation for who I've had good relationship and rapport with before. And so when we send somebody to you as a referral, what's the process look like for somebody to be quoted on insurance?
Yeah. So if let's say, someone, you were to refer a client to me, I can either work with them over the phone if they're, happy to take a, 15, 20 minutes to have a conversation. Sometimes those conversations will, take 30, 40 minutes, but it's all within kind of finding out all the different information that I need to put a proposal together. But more or less gathering all the information, if that's again via phone or over via email, all the information that I'm going to need to put a quote together. One of the things that I like to do is to, pull up the auditor's website. It has all the information that one could possibly want. And so it's really just kind of making that introduction or giving them my contact information. Again, I get what I need. I go out and I quote it through our various carriers. And then within 24 to 48 hours, probably closer to 48 hours, we'll have a quote back from all of our different carriers. And then we'll go through and we'll decide, I'll look and see, which company has that best combination of price and coverage, knowing that this, X, Y, and Z might be hot button topics for the client based on our conversation. How are we best able to handle and take care of that client? And that's the best company that we come up with. That's what we'll put into a proposal and, send it over to them and then schedule a follow-up call. Have any questions, concerns, make any tweaks or changes, and simply can go from there.
So it's not a one-stop, one size fits all. It can be done a la carte in terms of coverage and deductibles and things of that nature.
Exactly. Yeah. And so one of the things I'll do on a proposal is I'll put together multiple deductible options for the client. And then I'll give them my thought process. Hey, this is what I would recommend based on this factor or this reason. And then just kind of have that rapport with them and decide, choosing what coverages are best for them and what their needs are for that particular item.
Great. So I bent his ear last week, just getting to know more about him, planting the seed for this. But I wanted to open it up to you guys. Do you have any questions about insurance, or are you guys pros just like I am now?
Definitely not a pro, but I know a lot of times, they talk about, definitely know the difference between home insurance and then home warranties, because sometimes people don't remember that. I talked to, what was it, America's Preferred Home Warranty. I did a little Zoom thing with them just to get to know what they did. And they say you really need to make sure that when you're talking to people that they do know the difference, because not everybody realizes that.
Yeah,
It's not
absolutely.
really a question, but it's just something for people to think about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And one of the things I know a lot of times when I purchased my home last year, the sellers paid for a year of the first year home warranty. We decided not to renew it, and the reason why we decided not to renew it is that we actually can add on what's called equipment breakdown coverage on a homeowner's policy, and it's going to do exactly pretty much the same thing that the home warranty will, from a standpoint of replacing any kind of equipment in the house that just stops working. And that's not due to the AC unit being 22 years old. It's 5 years old and it just stopped working. You can make claims on your home policy for something like that, just as you would within a home warranty. Deductible applies, all those kinds of things, but it doesn't. They don't count it as a homeowner's claim, which is a good thing. So for what I would say is, I guess my recommendation is just kind of how I did it personally was, we'll take it based on the seller paying for it for the first year. It's free. But year two, we decided not to renew it because it was like $800 versus we can include it on our homeowner's insurance. And I think it was like $65 to add it on there. And that was just for us. That price could be different for everybody. But that is something
for the whole year.
Yeah.
And that was for equipment breakdown, you said?
Yeah, correct.
Well, that's good for us being, fiduciaries and caretakers of our clients. We also should care about their money, right? And so if we know that there's a different avenue to go down aside from home warranty that might save them money and still get them decent coverage on stuff like breakdowns, we would be remiss to not mention those things.
For sure. And like I said, they work very much the same way. I don't think there's one that's, better than the other. I would say if you're getting one for free for the first year from the seller, take it. But then year two, consider your other options of looking into adding equipment breakdown coverage onto the homeowner's policy. most carriers are offering the equipment breakdown coverage, the different levels of coverage and deductibles, of course, but pretty much every company has the equipment breakdown coverage.
Well, guys, if this conversation today hasn't taught you anything about three different realms of the real estate world, then you weren't listening. Go back and watch the recording, available tomorrow. But before we let Rob go, any other questions regarding insurance or how he takes care of that head?
A lot of wax, a lot of polish.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for having me. I appreciate it. And, thanks for putting my contact information out there, Josh. If anyone has any questions, you want to talk more in depth, anything, feel free to reach out, send me an email, and, we'll go from there.
Awesome. Golf clap, Zoom clap. Yay. Thank you so much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Enjoy
Appreciate
the
it.
rest of your day.
You all as well. Thank you.
Hey guys, before we cut you all loose, did want to bring up a couple things. Bold is coming up. I just so happen to be wearing my Bold shirt. If you've not already, sign up for Bold. I promise you, you will not regret it. It will change your life. It'll change the way you approach the mundane things. It'll change the way you think and where you place importance in your life. And I'm telling you right now, I need it. I need a revitalization. I've done it 3 times, and I feel my psyche slipping a little bit. And so Bold is a great way to recenter yourself and also impact your business. If you are a member of the Capital Partners team, you have access to some scholarships. And if you are a member of the Excel team and you're interested, please reach out to me. I may have some scholarship information there as well. But we do need to get applications in, the sooner the better, because you're reimbursed based off of when you sign up. So it's just like anything you ever sign up for. You get more perks the earlier you sign up. You are reimbursed for this as long as you do close deals during the course of the Bold cycle, which is from now until January 1st. So over the course of the next 3 months, if you know you have something closing, why wouldn't we just get a free education out of it? It's every Tuesday starting October 12th. It's a 6-week program, 7-week program, six or 7-week program, and we will skip the week of Thanksgiving, and we will skip the week 2, I think it is. So it's not every single Tuesday, but typically from 9 a.m. to about 3 p.m. And that's going to be held, to my latest knowledge, at Mozart's off 23 in Clintonville. I hope you all have a great week, guys. If you didn't report your numbers, report your numbers. We can't run a successful business if we don't know our numbers. And a lot of you didn't report your numbers. So report your numbers. I love y'all. Talk to you later.